Good evening. This is Kathleen Drew, Chair of the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council. Welcome to tonight's public meeting for the Horse Heaven Wind Project, and thank you for joining us this evening. Ms. Grantham, will you call the roll for the Horse Heaven Council members for the EFSEC?
Yes. Department of Commerce.
Kate Kelly, present.
Department of Ecology.
Eli Levitt, present.
Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Mike Livingston, present.
Department of Natural Resources.
Lenny Young, present.
Utilities and Transportation Commission.
Stacy Brewster, present.
For the Horse Heaven Project, Department of Agriculture, Derek Sanderson.
Present.
Benton County, Ed Brose. And that is everyone, Chair.
Thank you. Welcome again to the public meeting tonight. It is to receive comments on the draft environmental impact statement for the Horse Heaven proposal per SEPA, that's State Environmental Policy Act rules, in WAC, Washington Administrative Code 197-11. EFSEC publicly noticed invitations to review and comment on the Horse Heaven Draft Environmental Impact Statement, or DEIS. The DEIS comment period runs from December 19th, 2022 to February 1st, 2023, 45 days. Public comment submissions will be accepted until 11:59 p.m. tonight. After close of the comment period, EFSEC will review the comments, and these will inform the preparation of a final environmental impact statement, or FEIS. EFSEC will not be giving presentations or answering questions this evening. This evening, the Council is here to listen. Reminder to all of you is that the EFSEC staff are available during regular business hours to answer questions about the project proposal. Information about the Horse Heaven proposal and copies of the draft EIS are available on the EFSEC website, www.efsec.wa.gov. Each speaker tonight will be allotted 2 minutes to allow for as many speakers as possible. When your name is called, please identify yourself and begin by spelling your name for the court reporter. There will be a timer on the screen for those joining via computer, and I will let you know when the end of the 2 minutes is up. Any comments that exceed this time should be submitted online. The information to do so can be found on the Horse Heaven Project website and has been on the screen this evening. We will be taking a break for 5 minutes every hour. We will be concluding the meeting at 8 p.m. or following the last speaker, whichever comes first. So with that, we will have our first speaker.
Certainly. So our first speaker we have is Dave Kobus from Scout Clean Energy.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to present comments. This is Dave Kobus, DAVEKOBUS, and I'm speaking for the applicant as well as a local resident. So this DEIS demonstrates that sufficient analysis have been conducted by the applicant and EFSEC to confirm that with appropriate mitigation, the project's environmental impact does not pose significant detriment and is compatible with the agricultural character of the county as it is located in the land use type specifically recommended by the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife wind power guidelines. And the analysis didn't stop with our application, as the applicant has continued to analyze special species impacts and has provided the best available science to justify development plans. The applicant's comments on the DEIS generally identify where corrections must be made, comments to improve clarity, and recommendations for enhancements. and we have submitted those comments in writing. However, several concerns have been highlighted for consideration that we believe do not meet reasonableness and attribution of impacts tests in SEPA or reasonably align with the wind power guidelines. In general, the applicant believes that some of the mitigation measures exceed established precedent and several must be reconsidered. We provide justification for those we feel should be removed for the reasons I just noted. The applicant appreciates the effort that was provided by EFSEC staff and independent consultant to, in my view, leave no stone unturned in the DEIS preparation and review activity. The need for clean energy projects such as this is recognized nationally by the state and by the region. The
Thank
Northwest
you
Power.
for your comments. The 2 minutes is up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on.
Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry, Chair Drew. The next speaker is Bill McKay, Kennewick Mayor.
Hello?
Hello, are you ready?
I'm ready. Is it my turn?
Please go ahead. Yes.
My name is Michael Scrimshire. I live in the Tri-Cities.
No, Michael. Michael, it is not your turn. Once it is your turn, your name will be called. Right now, we have Bill McKay over in Benton County ready to speak.
I'm sorry.
Apologies.
Okay, I'll wait.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've mixed up who was sitting in front of me and who was speaking or sitting in front of me on the video. Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. Scout requested that Kennewick supply water to them and was later notified by the city of Kennewick that they would not be providing water to them. They were denied because they were outside city limits and also the urban growth area. Because of the vast amount of water requested in a year of drought, there was a high possibility that water would have to be limited to city residents to fulfill the commitment to Scout. Since the city of Kennewick's notification to Scout, they have not modified their application nor notified the public of what their source of water would be. As far as we have been able to determine, they still have not revealed where their source of water will be. Governor Inslee's comment, including, excuse me, I'm back up. While attending a UN climate conference in Egypt in November 2022, Governor Inslee was quoted as saying, governments will have to overcome NIMBYism, including in Washington, to achieve clean energy goals. He went on to say regulatory reforms are needed to prevent local opponents from delaying projects. We've got to make decisions, and this will be controversial. We have to confront it. We have to succeed, unquote. However, it's important to note that Governor Inslee's words are the polar opposite of what was promised in the Washington 2021 State of Energy Strategy, SES, which states, public and community participation is important to ensure energy policy is informed by local knowledge, meets local needs, and is viewed as legitimate by the local community. Additionally, communities and community members must have a seat at the table in designing programs and selecting projects.
Mayor, your time is up. If you'd like to submit the rest in writing, appreciate it.
Okay, will do.
Thank you very much.
Chair Drew, this is Sonia.
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask Ms. Grantham if she could start the timer after the speakers spell their name.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
That would help. A few more seconds. That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is John Cowling.
Good evening, John Cowling, JOHN, COWLING. Good evening. I am the Deputy Public Works Director for the City of Kennewick. And just following up on the Mayor's comments, I've been the primary contact with Scout Clean Energy as it relates to the use of Kennewick water for this project. As Mayor McKay indicated, Kennewick will not be or cannot provide water for this project. Specifically, the Kennewick Municipal Code prohibits provision of water outside the city limits or urban growth area. I'd like to add that this information, as well as this section of code, was provided to Scout Clean Energy in May of last year, so we felt it's important that EFSEC know, and the draft EIS did not identify Kennewick as a potential water source for construction and ongoing operations of this project due to our inability to provide water with our current municipal code. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Greg Wendt.
Good evening. Excuse me. My name is Greg Wendt. I'm the Director of Community Development for Benton County. On January 31st, the Board of County Commissioners.
Excuse me, if you can wait a second, if you could spell your name for the record, and then we'll start your time. Thank you.
Yeah. G-R-E-G, last name is W-E-N-D-T. On January 31st, the Board of County Commissioners did submit written comments regarding this draft EIS for this project. And while the DEIS has many inadequacies, the county is deeply concerned that in its current form, the DEIS does not meaningfully discuss or disclose impacts to our county agricultural lands of long-term commercial significance. Specifically, the project will result in the conversion of ag lands of long-term commercial significance without disclosing the environmental impacts of the conversion. The GMA imposes on Benton County a requirement for the conversion of natural resource lands, which includes the county's ag lands of long-term commercial significance. Benton County is required to designate these ag lands, assure the conservation of these ag lands, assure that the use adjacent lands do not interfere with their continued use of agricultural lands. Conserve agricultural land in order to maintain and enhance the agricultural industry and discourage incompatible uses. The conservation of agricultural lands of long-term commercial significance is a state of Washington mandate that Benton County must and will continue to follow. The county has met this mandate and properly designated it as agricultural lands. These ag lands cannot be de-designated or allow non-agricultural uses in these areas without issuing a determination that the lands are no longer meeting the long-term commercially significant status. Approval of this project would undermine GMA's ag lands conservation mandate and allow the permanent conversion of 6,869 acres and the temporary conversion of 2,957 acres of long-term commercially significant ag land. This results in long-term removal of commercially significant ag lands, and in turn, the Horsehaven Hills farming area will suffer irreversible losses as a viable ag area of agricultural resource lands. The impacts from the loss of ag lands of long-term commercial significance as a result of this project must be thoroughly analyzed and discussed before a final EIS is issued. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Michelle Cook.
Michelle Cook, M-I-C-H-E-L-L-E, Cook, C-O-O-K-E. Thank you for the time. First of all, Benton County is concerned that the conversion of agricultural lands of long-term significance will have a high cumulative impact. The DEIS is required to meaningfully disclose and discuss the impacts of permanently converting almost 7,000 acres of agricultural lands to new land uses. These new uses will replace and eliminate not only these agricultural lands, but also the functions and values that these lands provide as a type of natural resource land. Additionally, the DEIS fails to discuss the economic impacts to the overall agricultural community and further does not disclose the economic impacts for the life of the project. The DEIS does not support its own conclusions when it states that the proposed action does not contribute to a cumulative impact on agricultural productivity, profitability, or farm operations within the project area. This conclusion is misleading because it implies that Benton County's conditional use criteria will prevent or mitigate any project impacts. The project impacts will clash with rather than meet the tests laid out in the Benton County Code. Secondly, the proposed mitigation measures are inadequate to appropriately mitigate the environmental impacts of the conversion of agricultural lands of long-term commercial significance. The mitigation measure LSU 5 requires that the applicant submit a site restoration plan to EFSEC. The DEIS identifies that this plan is to be submitted and is not an actual part of the SEPA record. Therefore, it cannot be evaluated and does not constitute an effective mitigation measure. Lastly, there's no discussion of the introduction and integration of a large-scale, non-agricultural industrial use onto the Horse Heaven Hills landscape. Changes to the facilities and roads and power lines will impact existing grazing and farming activities. In closing, the impacts from the loss of agricultural lands of long-term commercial significance as a result of this project must be thoroughly analyzed and discussed before a final EIS can be issued. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker we have is Jerome Delvin.
It's Jerome, Delvin, D as in David, ELVIN. So thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank EFSEC too for holding this meeting so we can have, our community can have comments. I'm a Benton County Commissioner. You just heard from Benton County staff about the DEIS and some of their concerns, and we share those, the commissioners share those. I've spent a lot of time in this community, born and raised here, and I've always enjoyed the views in this area when I hike. What these windmills will do will destroy that, in my mind, destroy those views. You'll hear from a lot of passionate citizens here that really have concerns about what those windmills will do to our natural landscape. I think you can put it to what it would ruin our view shed and our views in this area if you put these windmills, say, on the hills around Issaquah, or if you put them in the Puget Sound or off the coast of Washington. There'd be a lot of outcry. Well, you're going to hear a lot of outcry today about this. We don't want those here. There's better places for those. If you really want to do those, a lot of people may speak about the inefficiency of those windmills. There's a lot of data that supports that view. So I just asked EFSEC to really give it an honest and not be pressured by all the go green and those type of statements, because we just don't want to be the dumping ground for all the green energy. We have hydro, which unfortunately is not considered a renewable energy in this state, the only state in the country. And also, we have nuclear power here. We encourage more nuclear power. They don't affect the view shed like these windmills. So urge you to say no to this project, and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ken Spencer.
Madam Chair, thank you. Ken Spencer. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to comment on the Horse Heaven Wind Farm. You as a committee have given approval for the project despite our county and citizens' objection. I have a couple of points to make regarding the approval over the objections of the citizens of our county. You have bypassed the Urban Growth Act, giving approval for an industrial development. If you look back a few years ago, the city of Kennewick in Benton County had applied to that body for an increased area of industrial development south of the I-82 corridor, saying it would not be part of the current growth plan. Well, Horse Heaven Wind Farm is south of I-82 corridor, and by your authority, you have created something that we could not do. This may create some unintended consequences. If I were the city of Kennewick, I would start developing that area south of the I-82 corridor based on your decision. Number two, what is the plan for decommissioning these large towers and wind turbines? I have reviewed as I could some of the cost studies that have been done on that topic, and it looks like the estimated useful life of this project is between 20 and 30 years. At the end of the useful life, what is the plan to dispose of these, either by salvage or disposal at a hazardous waste site? The best report with the most complete details was done in 2017 out of South Dakota. At that time, the estimate of the cost of decommissioning was $2 million per turbine. If we apply inflation over the last 6 years, that cost has risen to over 2.2 million. Now, who's going to cover that cost? The taxpayers of Benton County? Because we are the ones that are not profiting from this project. So I feel there needs to be a fund set up or some other reasonable means to pay for the estimated cost to return the site to its present condition. As has been seen in other developments where the subsidies sometimes end at the end of the project, and the developer or the companies that develop it, they have run these developments disappear when it's time to clean up or dispose of the site.
Thank you for your comments.
They are no longer.
Your time is up.
So I have submitted this in writing. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Lisa Smith.
Hi, my name is Lisa Smith, Lisa Smith, and I live in the Summit View neighborhood of Kennewick, which is in southwest Kennewick. I am a proponent of clean energy, but am extremely opposed to this massive wind turbine project. We already provide efficient clean energy through nuclear power and also the hydroelectric power in our area. I don't understand why we'd let an out-of-state company come in and completely destroy our natural landscape and ridges with these wind turbines. We do have some with wind turbines already that are visible from my house, and I can see that they are idle the majority of the time. We do get wind here, but it's actually quite infrequent. It seems crazy to forever change a huge part of our landscape to have massive wind turbines sitting idle. I also don't understand why these wind turbines have to be right at the top of our ridges, where they're the most visible to thousands of people in Findlay, Tri-Cities, and Benton City. There's a lot of land, even just south of here, you know, between our cities and Oregon, with almost no population, where these turbines could be and not have so much impact on our people. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Margaret Hugh. Do we have Margaret Hugh present?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, there she is. Thank you.
I'm trying to find where I was going to speak. You caught me by surprise. Okay. Oh, okay, it's Margaret. Margaret, M-A-R-G-A-R-E-T. Last name is Huey, H-U-E. I'm a resident from Badger Canyon. The location where some of these turbines are going to be is within 1.5 miles of our location. Directly above us, I've lived in Badger Canyon for 40 years, so I've seen a lot of things and know the land and the terrain and so forth. But what people don't understand is all of these big canyons that drain off of Horse Heavens, they bring wind turbulence down. The DEIS refers to Badger Canyon as kind of sloping hills, whatever. It is very complex. In all of these canyons that feed in are pull air down. They cause wind turbulence. But the wind farms that are coming up, there are 150, 6 rows deep, directly above Badger Canyon to Kiona for 9 miles. And with that, we have some of the most pristine farm ground in Badger Canyon, Red Mountain, Kiona, but also down to Findlay. But this area here is going to receive all of the warm air that's going to damage our diversified agriculture. The wind turbulence can be carried up to 15 to 20 miles, causing chaos among our diversified ag. This will go way into Pasco and North Franklin County. The other thing is with the warming temperatures, most from the wind farms, most of these are in the evening, 4 in the afternoon to 10 in the morning. If you're a cherry grower, you go out to pick your cherries and the orchard is warm, you're not going to be able to pick your cherries. That is an economic loss to our community. I was concerned because some growers brought up small cherries. We found out WSU IREC is releasing a study. It is not out yet, but it will be. And it shows that damage from warm temperatures can affect the quality, the size of the fruit, which is tonnage, that's money, and then also the color on the apples, color on the fruit.
Thank you.
That's economic loss.
Thank you. Your time's up. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rita Porter.
Hello.
If you are not Rita Porter, please make sure your mic is muted. She is our next speaker.
How do I mute that? I'm sorry.
Chair Drew, do you remember what the code is for phone?
*6 or #6.
Thank you.
#6. That mutes me.
Yes.
Hello, my name is Rita Porter, RITA-PORTER. One of the things that has not been addressed so far is the blinking red lights, and I'm concerned about the blinking red lights. They'll be visible from my home by times probably 50 or 60. I live in Badger Canyon, and I'm vehemently against the intrusion of the windmills for all the reasons that's been addressed and the reasons that are yet to be addressed. I think it's a huge show of disrespect of the residents of the Tri-Cities, not even to give them a voice until after the fact. And I didn't really have anything to prepare, but I just wanted to show up and give my support to people of the United States, or people of Tri-Cities, and voice my opinions. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for everybody's knowledge, since it's been brought up twice, EFSEC has not made a decision to approve this project. We are still in the middle of our process. That's why we have the draft environmental impact statement in front of you tonight. There is an adjudication yet to happen, and so this project has not received approval from EFSEC at this point in time. If you call the next speaker, please.
No problem, Chair Drew. The next speaker is Karen Richardson.
Good evening. My name is Karen Richardson, KarenRichson. This has been the culmination of an over 2-year journey. I've sent EFSEC pictures of animals, burrowing owls, sandhill cranes, the red-tailed hawks, and the pronghorn antelopes that graze on our steppe scrub. As endangered animals, they've been reintroduced by the Central Washington chapter of the Safari Club. I've sent pictures of landscapes, sunsets, vast wide open spaces. I've sent pictures of broken turbines on fire like the ones in Williamsburg, Iowa, but the people in charge don't seem to care. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Department, with help from the Department of Defense, just granted a $2.4 million REPI, which is a Readiness and Environmental Protection Program for butterflies, gophers, and horned larks on acreage adjacent to the Joint Base Lewis McChord property. The Tri-City Herald just reported that Washington-based wind power provides the lowest effective capacity in winter compared to surrounding regions. According to Western Resource Adequacy Programs, a quote from a utility planning company, Washington-based wind farms should be low on the list of alternatives if you're trying to balance CO2 emission reductions, grid reliability, and land use impacts in the most cost-effective manner possible. The draft study is lacking a failure to analyze proposed wind projects' impact on residents. With Horse Heaven Hills, high-pressure inversions, cold freezing weather, and windless days, this makes no sense to place the wind farms in this area. Thank you.
The next speaker is Tammy Wolf Slack.
Hello, my name is Tammy Wolf Slack, Tammy Wolf Slack. Hi. I am here to talk about a couple articles Washington Times had. The title of the article is Death by Solar Farm, 71 Species of Birds Killed, Entire Food Chains Disrupted. This article talks about 800-degree temperatures above solar fields. And apparently one type of bird in the study was observed to be smoking from its feathers as it flew. College of Natural Sciences article, dated January 2020, a $1.6 million DOC grant supports scientists studying bird deaths at solar facilities. It discusses the incineration of birds to the point that in some cases there was only a puff of feathers remaining. They couldn't even identify the remains. We are in a wildlife migration route. We are a major flyway, according to the United Nations Food Agriculture Organization. And I have a lot of photos here to show different types of birds, and some of them discussed. And when I read the Wind Solar Table EFSEC discussing special status, that means protected or endangered, I'm guessing. Recommended mitigation measures should read as allowable killing protected status species. In particular, you talk about eagles. How many eagles are okay? They're going to be giving take permits, which my understanding is take means kill. How many are acceptable? 5, 10, 100? I have concerns that these shouldn't even be placed here in a flyway. So there are other options. I think that starting to create things at a point of use is critical. Do a college and a high school, give them competitions and say, hey, can you attach this to a car tire and make the battery generate itself? Solar cells on top of a car. Other types of something that can capture the wind on top of a vehicle. There's other ways to look at this. We don't have to go this way. We should stop jumping out of the airplane without checking our parachute for holes. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Gail Graves.
Good evening. My name is Gail, G-A-Y-L-E, Graves, G-R-A-V-E-S, and I reside in Sunrise Canyon, and thank you for holding this meeting. I am against the project as it's environmentally devastating. For one example, the diversified agriculture will be impacted, raising local temperatures 4 degrees higher annually. Annually. Diversified agriculture is one of the economic drivers of the Tri-City area. The project is economically not sound as it will not create the energy proposed. It's at taxpayers' expense and will not create the employment as broadcasted by the supporters of the project. The shrub, steppe, and wildlife in our community care will be decimated without rehabilitation. How does this affect me and my family? My home is at the base of the hills. I'll be breathing the herbicides and pesticides brought down by the winds and the construction. Living in higher temperatures with higher utility bills, tolerating red lights, noise pollution, missing the wildlife that once flew in the Pacific Flyway that was once ours to enjoy. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Karen Brutzman.
Karen Brutzman, K-A-R-E-N, B as in boy, R-U, T as in Tom, Z as in zebra, M-A-N. I am against this project. Scout Clean Energy wants you to believe that a small group of vocal residents is threatening to stop this clean energy project, which would generate up to 1,000 jobs and millions in tax revenue to Benton County. Don't be fooled. Those 1,000 jobs will be short-term jobs for wind turbine installation. Once in place, the project will employ fewer than 50 people. Wear and tear on our roadways will be immense. Trucks will bring wind turbines to our area in several sections. Roads will need to be straightened. There will also be hundreds of concrete trucks traveling county roads to provide concrete for wind turbine foundations. Many of our county roads were not designed for these type of heavy loads. Clean energy is a misnomer. Concrete has a huge carbon footprint. The environmental impact of concrete, its manufacture and applications are complex, including CO2 emissions. The cement industry is one of the main producers of carbon dioxide, a potent greenhouse gas. One reason why carbon emissions are so high is because cement must be heated to very high temperatures for clinker to form. The Tri-Cities is already a hotspot for ozone health risk. The Tri-Cities Ozone Precursor Study, final report dated December 12, 2017, was prepared by the Laboratory for Atmospheric Research, the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering, and Washington State University. The link is provided in my written comments. This study was conducted because air quality managers started paying close attention to ozone levels in the Tri-Cities when the daily predictive air quality forecast model operated by WSU consistently showed elevated ozone in the Tri-Cities area. The ozone in this study is attributed to car emissions, but we can't ignore the pollution created by the millions of tons of concrete that will be used to erect these gigantic wind turbines and the emissions from the trucks transporting concrete to the work site.
Thank you.
Standard 3.
Your time is up. Thank you for your comments, and please submit it in writing.
The next speaker is Christopher Cooperstein.
Hello, my name is Christopher Cooperstein, Christopher Cooperstein, Kuperstein. What I say tonight, I have to preface by saying that I'm an affected landowner, and it does not reflect my employer or any other organization that I may associate with. I reside, by my calculation, as one of the closer residences to these wind turbines. The closest 4 turbines will be placed approximately 3/4 of a mile to 1 mile from my house. During the pandemic, great care was taken in saving the lives of citizens of Washington State. Part of this care was to listen to experts who were experts in pandemic and in disease and developing mitigating measures to protect people from the disease. I submit for the record an expert medical doctor, Dr. Nina Pierpont, who earned her PhD studying the effects of existing wind turbines on existing people. This book, titled Wind Turbine Syndrome, details medical impacts of varying types on real people by real turbines. On page 20, I read the chief recommendation. 2 kilometers or 1.24 miles remains the baseline, shortest setback from residences and hospitals, schools, nursing homes that communities should consider. In mountainous terrain, 2 miles, 3.2 kilometers is probably a better guideline. My first recommendation is that for this project, that EFSEC follow her advice. Instead of the turbine placement being 1/2 of a mile from a nearest residence, as the current EIS suggests, that a buffer of 2 kilometers or 1.525 miles be placed between turbines and the nearest residence so as to minimize the health impacts to those affected residents. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Mary Cloninger.
Hello, my name is Mary Cloninger, MaryCloninger. I am not as eloquent as the people that are previous to me, and I do not have a lot of information, but I'm a native Tri-Citian, born and raised in this vicinity, and I am against building the wind farm in the Horse Heaven Hills. They are a blight and an eyesore on our beautiful hills. The construction will cause damage to the ecosystem and cause dust pollution in our air in town. The energy produced is not very much, and it's not worth destroying our landscape. It is not clean energy. It uses oil, it leaks oil into the dirt, and it kills birds and disrupts wildlife. And I don't know if anyone has ever done a study on what the vibration would do to our basalt. And I would suggest that something like that happen before you make any decisions. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Art Kelly.
Good evening. My name is Art Kelly, ARTKELLY. We are very blessed to have sufficient and reliable power via hydroelectric power and nuclear power here in our region. Therefore, a projected amount of massive land for this project is not warranted at this time for windmills to be constructed. There's no guarantee that whatever power that can be generated will not be sold to California, Oregon, Canada, or other territories, or even benefit the Tri-City area. What contingency plans are in place if Scout Energy should by chance go bankrupt, federal subsidies are depleted, etc.? Who has the responsibility of removing all these wind turbines and restoring the land back to its original status? According to the Manhattan Institute, windmills provide less than 3% of the world's energy. Netherlands and Germany have come out with a very progressive technology using what they call tulip-shaped small wind turbines that can be installed on private property, household roofs, businesses, etc. They're extremely quiet. They provide 20 to 50% more efficient energy. They produce energy to power at least 1/3 energy of consumption of a household. There's also the issue of the recyclability of windmill blades. I think we need to take advantage and reevaluate our other forms of progressive technology and put this on the back burner. Thank you for your time.
The next speaker is Dave Sharp.
My name is Dave Sharp, SHARP. The developer has stated that the Nine Canyon project establishes a precedent for the proposed project. That is not the case. Each of the turbines can produce 2 to 3 times what an NC turbine could produce. The number of turbines, the height of turbines, the 25-mile expanse of the project, the amount of generation, 100 plus miles of road, 110 square miles of the project, and the apparent lack of respect for wildlife corridors and habitat disturbance There is no comparison. Horse Heaven project is another dimension. Wind projects have been in Washington since the early 2000s. Since that time, there have been nearly 2,000 turbines installed, over 20 projects. In all prior cases, the developer respected wind industry practices and cited wind projects in rural areas away from high population zones. This project will have approximately 5 times the population impacted as all other counties in the state combined. This will be a disparate treatment of Benton County. And what about the precedent that will be set if this project is approved with a perceived bias, such as no alternative builds and no substantive mitigation, or a lot of the unresolved issues being solved by a team separate from the main process? Future projects will motivate developers to bypass local officials and use EFSEC for every project with sloppy, non-specific applications and expecting approvals with minimal mitigation. Developers study previous applications and they study the decisions that EFSEC makes. Those decisions guide how they approach and present a new application. We are hopeful that EFSEC does not set a new precedent with their decisions on this project. This is a slippery slope, and I hope that you recognize that. Since I have a couple minutes or a couple seconds, jobs, the real number of jobs from the application is 450, and approximately half of those.
Your time is up. Your time has been up. Thank you.
Next, we have Paul Crouppen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Crouppen. That's Paulkrupin. I'm a retired environmental protection specialist with an EAMS and a well-used law degree. Over 40 years of work experience in the Pacific Northwest, and I live in Kennewick, Washington. President Biden just—
Can we pause for a second, please?
Yes.
Okay. I'm having trouble hearing you. If you can speak more into the microphone, and if I'm having trouble, probably our court reporter is too. And slow down just a tad. Thank you.
I did submit my comments, and I'm just going to read from them. Okay, so on Tuesday, yesterday, President Biden said that climate change is a bigger threat to humanity than nuclear war. And Governor Inslee is on record committing to science-based limits on greenhouse gas emissions. I have really serious doubts about the underlying need for this project and whether it can really contribute to any of these problems with meaningful solutions. What does the best science really tell us? How are we going to identify the good projects from the bad, the ones that cannot? I respectfully want to offer the following recommendation. EFSEC, with concurrence of the governor and in cooperation with the tribes and the local counties and cities, should convene a Blue Ribbon Commission of exceptional people who are appointed to independently investigate, study, and analyze the difficult and complex problems caused by climate change. The members of this Blue Ribbon Commission should be selected using a best and brightest approach to ensure independence from political influence and authority. The commission should utilize their expertise and experience to consider and evaluate science-based limits, and then issue scientific and project-specific findings and recommendations, which can then be used by decision makers. The Blue Ribbon Commission should be charged with identifying, describing, and evaluating the validity of the purpose, need, and underlying premises in energy projects. The review should also evaluate the project proposals and alternatives proposed by the project. No formal action should be taken by EFSEC or the governor until the findings and recommendations regarding the validity of this purpose and need for the projects can be provided by the Blue Ribbon Commission. This commission should then prepare a report, give public presentations, take public comments, and then finalize its findings and conclusions and present recommendations for consideration by the administration, the legislature, the federal and state, tribal, and local government agencies, tribal governments, other stakeholders, and the public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Clark Stoley.
Good evening. Clark, C-L-A-R-K, Stoley, S-T-O-L-L-E. Thank you for the opportunity to voice my opposition to the proposed project. My family's lived in the Kennewick area for over 70 years. We've shared a feeling of pride with the Horse Heaven Hills, believing that they should be preserved as much as possible as part of the heritage of our area. Allowing this project to be built at the proposed locations has long-term consequences that will cause significant and irreparable harm to the environment and overall quality of life for an urban area of over 300,000 people. There are two options proposed for this 25-mile-long project running along the Horse Heaven Hills ridgeline: 244 turbines of up to 500 feet or 150 of up to 670 feet tall. Both create significant adverse visual impacts that cannot be mitigated. This is not a visually aesthetic wind farm churning away in the middle of nowhere. It's an industrial complex of enormous proportions with many components and impacts. These towers are going to be taller than a 60-story building, the Space Needle, Statue of Liberty, Washington Monument. I think you get the picture. They're big and they're very visible. If approved, our community will be forced to live within eyesight of the towers, and no one who lives here or visits can escape seeing them. I feel the EIS does not perform balanced and serious analysis of the impacts that will be so detrimental to our community. It glosses over tough economic issues and impacts on tourism, quality of life, land values, aesthetics, recreation, and future development. It fails to discuss the backlash wind farms are facing in California and other states. And there's no discussion regarding alternative locations in Benton County, Eastern Washington, or other states. It also appears the project will have no positive impact on climate change or carbon emissions in Washington, and any power generated is likely to be sent out of state. Scout selected a poor location far too close to a large growing urban area, and our community should not have to pay the price for this bad decision. It can and should be located further from urban areas. Please deny this project. Thank you.
Next, we have Harvey Farholt.
Good evening. My name is Harvey Farholt, Harvey. Farholt as F as in Frank, Aurholt as in Tango. I'm a resident of Kennewick. I've been a resident of Kennewick for about 50 years now. There was something humorous I thought on, don't be so serious, but anyway, on the reading on the news off my phone, and they were talking about they've lost about 7 whales on the East Coast, and they're worried that the wind turbines are causing the death of whales, and it's getting an awful lot of attention. And I was thinking maybe if we were whales, we would get more attention than we're getting here by the state of Washington. We do not need more intermittent electricity in Benton County. The electricity we have now is 90% renewable, which is probably the best in the country, if not the best in the world. When and if the wind turbines are making electricity, the dams have to be shut down to accommodate the wind turbines, which is not good for the dam turbines. The wind turbines should be placed where the electricity is needed. California, the state of Washington, along the ocean, along the beaches, and I'm sure they would be happy to have them.
Yeah.
When the wind turbines are useful life is completed, or something better comes along to make, for example, if something happened with nuclear energy, then they will have to be disposed of. But they are not biodegradable and will exist forever in the garbage dumps if they make it that far. They're an eyesore that we will have to live with for the next 10, 20, 30 years, and unless they have enough money to take them down forever. As for the unions and people who want to have these put up, I can certainly understand their position. They want jobs as long as they're union jobs.
Thank you. Thank you. Time is up. Appreciate it. Please submit your comments in writing.
Up next, we have Victoria Farholt.
My name is Victoria Farholt, Victoria, Farholt, Faurholt. I am, my head's just spinning. I listened to all these people and they've given all the facts. Here is an article from Forbes magazine, June 15, 2021. Washington State's approaching energy crisis. Good intentions gone wrong. The trouble stems from attempts to decarbonize our society, but just getting rid of them without a realistic plan to replace them can do more harm than good. Wind power, I mean, I don't know who you guys are talking to, but it is not very effective. In several studies, it shows there is a projected capacity, but with wind power, you don't get warmth in the winter, you don't get movement in the winter or in the summer when it's really hot and it's really cold. The actual capacity is 7%. That means of 500, you get 500 milliwatts out of 7,100 milliwatts. But what I really don't understand is this push on us citizens. I mean, we have protections for animals. You keep your animal in the car and you get a ticket. My cousin had to go to court. You have, not here, doesn't matter here. All these animals, doesn't matter. We have fines against noise pollution, all kinds of aesthetic pollutions, doesn't matter here. These things are ugly. We have neighborhood care rules and regulations. Nobody cares here. We have individual personal health, like the man who was talking about COVID. Nobody cares here. They do not care. And that is what is just upsetting me. And if
Thank you. Your time is up. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Paula Nolte.
After the speaker, we will take a 5-minute break.
Do we have a Paula Nolte calling in? And I do hear an echo, so if you're not speaking, please make sure that you are muted. One more call for Paula Nolte.
Let's call her first after our 5-minute break.